Hello, Apps here from Dimp Digital. Welcome to our review of Days Gone, Sony exclusive. I'm being joined by the one and the only Mark Smith. Biff makes his long-awaited return to the Dimp Digital ranks to review Days Gone, which came out in April and was a long old game. Biff managed to play through it. He's the only one who finished the game, so he was on call to review it. And we're going to go through the game top to bottom and find out whether it was worth his time and his money to lay down. A word of warning, there are some minor spoilers in this. Obviously no end game or end is spoken about, but there's a narrative moment that is spoiled during this review. So if you're sensitive to that and don't want to hear anything about the story and don't want to know anything about what might happen in the story up to sort of halfway through, then perhaps stay away from this one. I was thinking of cutting it out, but it seemed unnatural. I don't like to cut or edit things that we record, and Biff's a little bit free with his spoilers and whatnot, and it didn't offend me too much. But if you're one of those people that doesn't like them, and I totally understand if you are, then skip Days Gone review and find another outlet. But it's a good chat, it's good fun, as usual it is when we get Biff on. So sit back, relax and enjoy. Biff.
Hello.
Silence. Unbelievable. 8 months out of the game, and that's the first thing you've done. Unbelievable.
That's why I was 8 months out of the game.
That's it. It'll be another 8 months at least now after that disgrace. Days Gone review. Bit late, but we are doing it. You're the only one who's actually played it to completion.
Yeah.
So you are doing good stuff behind the scenes occasionally. People slag you off and he doesn't know what he's talking about. But
I'd like to see these people.
yeah, there's a lot of them. Sort of a hashtag going on. But this is a game that Adkins has started, hasn't finished, sort of bailed out halfway through. You've given me a copy of, and I've installed it but not started it. So you've managed to grind it out and finish Days Gone, which is normally when we get these PlayStation exclusives, they are top of the list for us. We play through them, and there's probably about 4 or 5 people that have got an opinion on them. You are on your own here, and maybe we'll discover during this session why that is.
My word is final at the moment.
Exactly, because no one can overrule it, so it'll be what it is. I wanted to start as to why you actually got this game, because when we was off air just then, I just mentioned the studio name, which is they're known as Sony Bend Studio. They're a first-party sort of development studio for Sony and PlayStation. But you weren't really aware of the name when I called it out to you. Normally, I mean, you don't live in the world of gaming and know all the developers, but usually when you buy a game, it'll be, it might be Naughty Dog or it might be Rockstar. Like you've normally got an idea of who's made the game previously. With this, how did this even get on the radar? Is it just because it was a Sony exclusive?
No, it was you, I think. What? It's about, I don't know, it must have been a couple of years ago when it was first announced, because like Last of Us is like my favourite game. You went, this, look how good this looks, motorbike, hordes of zombies. And then it was the first trailer, and you sent me the trailer, I watched it, I was like, it does look quite good. And then as time went on, the expectation gradually just went down, and it was sort of got a bit of a bum note that come about it, and there was a few negative reviews, and then I just thought, fuck it, I'll make my own review. So I bought it, and yeah, but that was it. It was basically you, because you said it had the Last of Us vibe about it, and then when I played it, it didn't so much.
No, well, to be fair, that first trailer they showed when they first announced it, I think it was a few years ago at E3, it did have a Last of Us vibe, and then when we saw the technology for all the hordes of zombies, it looked like World War Z, didn't it? Like the film all overlapping each other. So it looked like it had potential, and then I think as we saw more of it, people's expectations kind of went down. I was going to read off a handful of other games that Sony Bend have developed and see if you've ever played them.
Right, okay.
So we've got Days Gone. We know that's a wrap. We'll talk about that in a minute. We've then got 2 PlayStation Vita games. Now, they're from a franchise that you're familiar with, but I don't think you had a Vita. But it was Uncharted Golden Abyss and Uncharted Fight for Fortune.
Well, I know there was a couple of Vita games, but I've never played any of those. No.
So they were in 2011 and 2012. PlayStation Portable, so the PSP, so still on the handhelds, which is a bit worrying. They've gone from handheld to PlayStation 4. Resistance, Retribution. Have you ever heard of the Resistance franchise?
Yeah, that was sort of PlayStation's version of Gears of War that didn't do nowhere near as good, wasn't it?
Yeah, I never actually played them. I felt like they could have been quite interesting, but I was expecting to see them this generation. Didn't. So that's another one marked off the list. This is an old classic. You may have heard of this, you may not have. Siphon Filter.
Yeah, I had that. I did have Siphon Filter.
Back in the day on the PlayStation.
Yeah, I did actually, yeah.
See, back then I thought it was amazing.
Yeah, I did as well, yeah.
And then I saw someone playing it, and I think I've played it. I think it's on that PlayStation Classic. It's fucking terrible.
Yeah, I saw a video of it. I think it's about a couple of years ago now, and I thought, fuck man, how did I even play this? Like, It's just ridiculous. But I remember at the time thinking, machine guns, amazing.
Yeah, I mean, you could run and dive, and that seemed like a really big thing, and it was very hard. I couldn't get past the first few levels. It was one of those games that I never quite got through. And they started off with Busby 3D on the PlayStation, which I'd never heard of or played.
No, I've never heard of that either.
But in recent times, so for the last sort of 10 years, they've only been doing portable games, and then they've merged and obviously been scaled up to produce something like Days Gone, which by all accounts, one thing I do know about it is it's a very, very long game. So you're a big fan of The Last of Us. There's comparisons made of The Last of Us. Let's just get it out of the way now. Is it even fair to compare this to The Last of Us in any way, shape or form?
It's not fair to compare them, but you can't talk about Days Gone without sort of talking about Last of Us, because they have ripped off The Last of Us so much and done it so badly. So yeah, The Last of Us won't be comparing themselves to Days Gone, but Days Gone will compare themselves to The Last of Us, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But there's like the music. I don't know if you remember, like Last of Us, there'd be like the music. It was like a guitar.
Yeah, like a solo guitar.
Solo, yeah, exactly. They do that loads. They can't get enough of it in Days. They fucking ram it down your throat. There's a bloke in a guitar. You're never more than 2 minutes away from that happening. All the settings are exactly the same. There's sort of like little lodges, little holiday lodges, and you go in and out of those in Days Gone. They're just a rip-off of a similar sort of level in Last of Us. There's like a big ski lodge you have to go in. Again, that's a rip-off of The Last of Us. There's like a medical facility where they're doing research on, the zombie things. That's a rip-off from The Last of Us. There was so much stuff that was just literally ripped off and not done as well. And it did infuriate me a little bit, but yeah. So there are comparisons to be made, but not good ones.
No. It sounds like they've taken the setting and certain perhaps narrative points from it, but in terms of the game itself, the scale of Days Gone is a lot larger than The Last of Us, isn't it? Because it's an open world.
Yeah. It's open world and Last of Us isn't. But it's more like you say about just little bits they've taken out, but they're sort of obvious. They're not really subtle.
Yeah, I see. So if we're looking at the game's narrative, what's the sort of setting for this? How many years after the outbreak is this set? What's the setup for the game's narrative? So if people are picking this up, they kind of know when they're going to be starting and who they're going to be playing as.
So you play as a bloke called Deacon St. John. Yeah. I can't remember how many years after the outbreak it is, but again, the first part of it is another gut wrencher, like it is in The Last of Us, where they're trying to make you emotionally involved in it, but they do it really badly. So basically, his girlfriend gets put on a chopper, and to escape the horde or escape the outbreak or whatever it is, he doesn't get on the chopper, and then I think the chopper crashes, and then he's like, "Oh no, it's all gone tits up." But and then you're basically
I'm Legend. You seen that film with Will Smith?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they got no original ideas. Yeah, it's exactly. Yeah, you're right. It's exactly the same as that. And then, and then you find little breadcrumbs, and then he's like, "Oh, I think she might be alive because he hasn't got any closure." And all his mate Boozer tells him, "No, it's dead. Forget about it.
Move on."
Yeah, and then it turns out she is alive, and she's like a medical researcher, and she's doing bits and bobs in regards to trying to cure them and trying to cull them back or kill them all, or I don't know. But yeah, so that's basically the premise of it. And then there's little out groups. So there's like these religious fanatics that think that they have like burns in their head, and they're all like motorcycle gangs. That felt like a real rip off of Mad Max.
Right. Yeah.
And they drink petrol and gasoline, I think. And they
that can't
worship.
Carry on forever. They'll die eventually. You've got to take some water on.
But they worship the sort of zombie things, and then there's other ones that are just like they're just normal people that just shoot people, like the people you'd get in The Last of Us. Those sort of gangs.
Yes.
And then there's just the zombie missions and things like that as well. So that's basically the premise of it.
Interesting. So one of the things I wanted to pick up on is when you was playing through this, you said, I can't remember the exact quote, but it was something along the lines of, it took about 30 hours before it got going.
Yeah.
How is that even possible for a game that's... I don't know how big the game is. I'm assuming maybe 50 or 60 hours tops, but how can you sit through 30 hours of nonsense? Or what's wrong with that first 30 hours?
So basically, you can't... There's all these things that you can see you can craft, but you can't craft it because you don't have the bits to craft it. So there's things like it's like a bomb that makes a noise and it attracts zombies to it. And you think, I could really do with that. And I can see I can make it, but I haven't got any other parts to make it. And it's only when you unlock certain bits of the map that you can then create these things. But you have to wait so long in the game to get them. Well, I did. I don't know if I was looking at the wrong places. There's probably someone out there going, I found it in like hour one. But there's loads of different things like that, like explosive bombs that trigger sort of like a C4 sort of thing that you can make, and ones that are proximity bombs, and ones, like I said, the noise. And you can't get any of these things, but you think these would really help me out, really make the game a lot better. But they don't give it. I didn't get them until I was about 25, 30 hours into the game, and then it sort of got good, and I was like, it's actually not too bad.
So it's not a narrative thing. It wasn't a change in the narrative. It wasn't something happening in the story. It was purely gameplay that you was able to start taking on these hordes perhaps with a bit more confidence and ability.
Exactly. That was it, really. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. One of the things that I'd seen in the build up to this, about maybe a year ago, they'd released some alpha footage of the game, and it looked a little bit rough in terms of like frame rate and bugs and whatnot. How is the game on that front? Did you have any crashes? Is it buggy? Does it run smoothly, or is it a bit of a shitter?
It's not great. The hordes weren't too bad. It wasn't the hordes that I had problems with. It was just I'd be just driving around, and then the road would go, or his bike, you'd fall off the bike, or there was a problem when you accelerate on the motorbike. You would upgrade your engine, and then it wouldn't feel any different. And then at certain points in the story, the bike would be really slow because you had to have like a conversation with someone, and it's just slowed the bike right down. And I had loads of problems then, because then the trees would just sort of move. You'd be driving along and a tree would come out in front of you, you'd fucking hit it, and things like that. And it really it wasn't so much the hordes, it was just bits like that, really.
Does it look okay? Does the environment, the enemies, does Deacon look good? Is that all?
Yeah. I would say that was probably the best part of it. That how it looked. I didn't think it looked too bad. There was like desert setting, there was snow setting, there's rain, there's forests, and they all sort of done their bit. And the ground looked quite good where it'd be raining. If you put your bike through it, it'd have like sludge and bits like that come up. Okay. So it did look pretty good. But yeah, it was just bits like that where the trees would move and the rocks would move, and then the bike wouldn't go as quick, and bits like that pissed me off, really. Just little things, but you just get frustrated when you think, well, this is fucking ruining the game.
Yeah, that is. Is the map absolutely huge then? It sounds like they've got quite a lot of different terrains.
Yeah, it is a pretty big old map, and getting around can be a bit of a fucking tedious task, because like I said, the bikes, it never feels that fast, to be honest. And they give you like nitrous and things, but yeah, it never really sort of feels that quick, so it is a long old slog.
Yeah, I was going to come on to the bike because with the map being that big, I'm assuming you can't just run around where you need to go. The bike's quite essential to get him from point A to point B. How is it managing the bike as a vehicle? Do you have to manage things like fuel? Can it brake? Do you have to repair it? Like, can you get stranded if you completely fuck your bike up and then you've got like a 2-hour trek back to get some materials for it?
Yeah, I mean the bikes. I mean, it's fucking terrible. It's the only way to describe it. It's awful. I mean, it handles so badly. I don't know. It's just terrible. You do have fuel, but there'll be like a little mini map, and when you get to a certain point, all of a sudden on your mini map, all these little petrol stations will pop up to show you where you can get petrol, or a canister of petrol, or something like that.
Yeah.
And then when the bike breaks, you have scrap, and then you use scrap to repair it. But again, if the bike blows up and you need scrap, you've got to go and wander off, go and find the scrap, then come back to your bike, sort of thing.
Yeah.
But the bike is such a, it's just terrible. It was so bad. When you've got like free roaming game like What am I talking about? Red Dead Redemption.
Yeah.
Where your horse is sort of like a base, isn't it? Everything's sort of connected to your horse.
Yeah.
The bike is just nothing. It's just a mode for training. You can't do anything. You can carry a little bit of extra ammo, but again, that's 30, 40 hours into the game. You can't do that straight away.
Yeah.
You can't sort of switch any guns rounds. It doesn't carry anything extra. It just seems like such a missed opportunity.
Yeah. It sounds like a pain in the arse to look after as well. I mean, the fact that the map's so big, I can imagine me running out of petrol in the wilderness and then being like, right, now what do I do? Does the go on?
It is a bit dodgy, the old petrol, because you won't see any petrol for ages. Your tank will get really low, and then on your mini map, all of a sudden, I think it spawns tiny little petrol canisters around you, and they're not too far away. I never had any problems. I was like, oh fuck me, I've got to run 10 miles back to go and get a canister of petrol. I'm pretty sure it spawns some near you when it knows you've run out, just so it ain't a lot of aggro.
Yeah, so that's okay. So if it does that and it's not too much of a pain, that sounds all right. The scrap to repair it, does the bike naturally just wear down, or is it only if you've crashed it or run into a trap, or over time will you always have to put scrap into it, even if you drive like Valentino Rossi?
For some reason, it'll always sort of wear down. It's when you crash it, but it's like if you do a jump or jump over a hill, when you land, if you don't land right, it will damage the bike. Right. And then if you hit a zombie head on, that'll damage it, or if someone shoots you, obviously that'll damage it. So it is pretty fucking flimsy. It will need a lot of scrap to keep it going.
Yeah. Okay. What sort of, you mentioned the bike itself, and can you upgrade the bike? Can you add things, make it quicker, make it more petrol efficient, things like that? Is there anything you can do for the bike to make it less of a chore to look after?
Yeah, so there is, in these little bases, there's sort of weapon caches where you can go and buy weapons, and there's like a garage where you can do it up. You can fill it up with petrol there and repair it there. And you can increase the fuel tank, increase the speed, increase the handling, better tyres, better brakes. But this is one of my biggest bugbears about the game. When you do it up, it puts it into a menu, and the bike is on the screen. But where you do your bike up, it's so dark, you cannot see what you're doing to the bike. So there's a lot of aesthetic things you can do as well. So you can change the wheels, you can change the colour, you can change sort of the mud guards and the exhaust and things like that. You can't fucking see what you're doing. You have to just put it on, and then when you get out in the daylight, go, oh, that's what it looks like. It's I had to like increase the brightness on my screen every single time I wanted to do the bike up, just so I could see what I was doing. It doesn't matter if you go in there in the day or at night. This garage didn't have a fucking light bulb in the whole place. It was a joke, and that really annoyed me for some reason.
Maybe that was an upgrade you missed. Light bulb for the garage.
yeah, maybe.
So you can see what you're doing. Okay, so bike, useful, but sounds like a bit of a pain in the backside to manage itself. What about Deacon himself? Can you upgrade his abilities? Is there stats or anything that you can do to upgrade, like his gun abilities or his stamina or bits and pieces like that?
Yeah, so there's these little missions where you can you get these injections, and one will upgrade your life, one will upgrade your stamina, so you can sprint longer. And there's like another mode, I forgot what they call it now, but it basically slows down time, so you can do like a really good shot. And that'll increase that. And you have, obviously, there's loads of them dotted around the map, and you inject yourself with those to increase one as you see fit. And then he does have like a skill bar where you'll be able to, increase your strength, so you can hit people harder with your bat, or I can't remember off the top of my head, but there's loads of them, things in the wilderness. So you can, if you have like a sense where you click a button and it will highlight things in the map.
Yeah, okay.
And
Eagle Vision from Assassin's Creed.
Exactly the same, yeah. And it will highlight different plants if you upgrade it, and it'll include animals in that if you there's all sorts of different things.
Is there much survival element to this? You mentioned that it highlights plants and things like that, and animals. Is there like hunting and anything like that you've got to worry about, or is that purely just for resources to craft things or to sell to merchants?
Yeah, it's more to that. You can hunt animals, but you never have to eat them. So basically, back at the base camp, there's these people, and they collect. So when you kill a zombie, there's different types of zombies. I think there's like swarmers and screamers and things like that. And then you pick up their ear as you walk over them. It picks their ear up, and you can sell it back to them for sort of credits in that particular base. And if you hunt animals, you can sell the animals back to them for credits for that particular base.
So it's only for that base. If you go to another base, they'll be like, "You ain't got no credit with us. You can't buy a lot."
It's fucking worthless, yeah. And again, that annoyed me. Just one currency for each little base, even though they're 2 miles apart. It's never gonna take off.
But, well, that society will crumble after the game, I reckon. Post credits, they'll all be gone. Is the game difficult? Because the big things they put in the trailer was how the world itself was a bit of a challenge to get through. It could be rabid animals, it could be people setting traps, it could be the hordes, it could be zombies. Is it a difficult game, would you say, or actually not that hard, and there's actually difficulty settings for you to change anyway?
I didn't find it that hard. The hordes are very hard, but everything else is pretty easy. The only thing that makes it hard is the game itself being shit. Because I don't know if I'll get... So when you go back to a base, you'll have a bed and there'll be a weapon locker. Yeah. And if you find a weapon, so say you killed somebody, they drop their weapon, you think that's much better than the weapon I've got, I'll pick that up. You can't put that weapon in the weapon locker. Right. You can only put weapons in the weapon locker that you buy from camps, and they're fucking expensive. So if, for instance, one of the things you get is you'll be riding along on your motorbike, a sniper will shoot you.
Yes.
And it will sort of wreck the bike. You'll fall off the bike and you'll have to kill 3 or 4 people. Now, the sniper will be up a tree. If you've got an Uzi, and so you'll have one handgun, one like rifle gun, and a special weapon. If you've got a Uzi, a machine gun and a shotgun, it's fucking hard to kill someone in a tree a mile away. Yeah. But if you have a sniper rifle or a crossbow, it's much easier. But because you can't swap your weapons around at any time in the game, you have to go back to your base to swap one of those 3 weapons around. It makes it shit. And it's the same for when, to say I then had a pistol, a sniper rifle, and just a normal rifle as my 3 guns. When you come up against a horde that shocks you, that jumps out of nowhere, you're fucked because you've only got 1 bullet at a time, whereas you need... And that's what I was saying about the bike being terrible. Why couldn't you have 3 guns?
Store an automatic weapon on it or something. And
yeah, it would just make so much more sense. So the only way the game is hard is when it's things like that, because you're not prepared for it, because you didn't know it was going to happen, and then you're trying to shoot a fucking bloke out of a tree with, a shotgun from 20 feet away. It's impossible. So the game I didn't find hard. It's just frustrating because it's not really well thought out. Do you know what I mean? You could put one of each type of gun on your bike and one of each type of gun on you, and you could swap them as and when the time needed to be done, but you can't.
You're not allowed to do that.
No.
Unbelievable. How do you progress in the game? Is it obviously like a main campaign, I assume? There's maybe icons for that particular... That's the main story, but I'm assuming there's side quests and, I don't know, challenges, things, bits and pieces like that. Is it sort of the normal open world stuff, or there's a number of different activities you can do at the world at any one time?
Yeah, so it's you sort of progress in the story via the main campaign, and it'll open up more bits of the map, and then you can get better weapons and you get introduced to better things. But each camp will have a set amount of weapons you can buy from this camp and a set amount of weapons you can buy from another camp. But you have to do favours for that camp to unlock the guns, and the favours you do are sort of side quests. So it'll be like, go and rescue this person we've had trouble with, like this gang, go and kill this gang, and then your credits will go up with them. Yeah. And then they'll then say, you can buy these sort of guns or these sort of upgrades for your motorbike now. And then once you've got those, you're then able to then go into the other bits of the map, better equipped. So you sort of you can go into the other bits of the map once you've unlocked it, but if you haven't got the right gear, you're going to get the shit kicked out of you pretty quickly. So it sort of keeps you in certain areas, right, by your equipment, sort of thing. Yeah, so
there's no physical barrier, but if you were to venture out there, you've either got to be really lucky, really good, or you're going to get your arse handed to you.
Yeah, some bits of the map are actually completely locked off. They have sort of tunnels that go through mountains, and they'll have loads of cars blocking them, and then it will say, "Oh, we've unblocked it to do. You can go through it now," and you go through it, and then you unlock another bit. But even though you've unlocked it, sometimes you can still get the shit kicked out of you. You need to sort of do the side quests.
Yeah,
sort of as and when they come up. Yeah.
Let's talk about the zombies, or the freakers as they call them.
That's it, freakers. Fucking hell, I couldn't remember what they're called.
Well, I don't know why. Why can't any game or film just call them zombies? You've noticed they've always got to have their own.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Word for it, they're fucking zombies. We know this. Anyway, this is probably, I would say, is the main attraction for the game, is the zombies and the different types of zombies, and probably the main event is the horde. But how do the zombies function in the world? Is it littered with just one type of zombie? Because I think I remember seeing like adolescent zombies that are scared of the adult zombies, but in groups they might get a bit leery, but when they're on their own they're a bit weaker. How does all this play out in the game itself when you come across these different types of zombies or freakers?
Yeah, so there are lots of different ones, and they are in certain areas of the map. You get the weaker ones when you start off, and as you progress further, you get the bigger ones. So I think there's one called a berserker. Right. It's just a big fucking lump of something that just charges at you. There's just swarmers, which are in a swarm. The ones you're talking about, the little ones, they're newts. They're like children, basically, which I thought was quite interesting to have sort of children. It sort of seemed a bit weird, but like you say,
most games would steer away from that because people were like, "Oh, kids are zombies," but
yeah,
they've interest. They've just gone for it.
Yeah, so and they sort of sit up top on roofs, and if you shoot a gun, they normally run away. But if there's, like you say, if there's a lot of them, they will attack you.
Right.
And there's one called a screamer. If you get too close to it and it sees you, it just lets out this scream. The TV goes all weird. You can't see anything, and it attracts other zombies to you. And there's a couple of other ones, but it is pretty varied. Yeah. But by and large, you don't really have to change the way you fight them. There's only the big bastards that you have to sort of think, I have to dodge this. The rest of them, you put a bullet in them and they die, sort of thing. There's not really too much to it, to be honest.
Fair enough. Do they interact with, say, human enemies? Can you use zombies to wipe out a camp and things like that, or do they kind of ignore each other?
No, you can, yeah. So you can, if you know that there's a few zombies that are lurking about, you can chuck things into the camp, and then they will be attracted to the camp, and then the camp will fight those. And that can be quite interesting. But again, because you haven't normally got the gear, it's something that happens after about 25, 30 hours again. You can't sort of do that. Yeah. So there's sort of a lot of opportunities where I thought, I could have done with that, 10 hours ago, but I didn't have the opportunity to do it. No. So, yeah, that is one thing you can do, and they do interact with each other, and then you'll see sort of animals. You can get the animals to interact with the humans as well. You'll see a couple of times where you'll see I forgot what they are, like a bear in a camp just causing havoc and that. So, yeah.
Interesting. What are the zombie hordes like then? Because they've made a big thing about these. There's going to be hundreds of zombies on screen. They're going to be really tough to take down. This is basically the game's main unique point, I guess. Not many games have done something like this in the zombie space. We've mentioned how many other ideas it appears to have borrowed, but this is something they've kind of stamped for themselves. How do these hordes operate, and do they live up to expectations? So
the bigger horde, I mean, like I said, when you kill a zombie, you get its ear. So once you've killed an entire horde, if you haven't got any on you, when you walk around, you can sort of see, Christ, I've actually picked up X amount of these. There's so many I've killed, and I think one of them I picked up like 280, and that was from one horde.
Jesus!
But it's sort of misleading because they don't all come out at once. The horde's so big that the 200 at the back won't be able to hear what you're doing, so you'll face 80. Then you'll make another noise, and then another 80 will come, and then you'll make another noise, and then you sort of go through it that way. So you're never really going to get 280 zombies, or even 100. You might get sort of 60, 70 on a bad day. It is quite interesting, and it is hard, and it is difficult, and you can't just go into it guns blazing. You do have to think about it and set traps for them and things like that. But I wasn't blown away by it. I didn't think, this is amazing. It I don't. They just everything they do, they just don't seem to do it very well, and like they've got the fucking vision of a hawk, these zombies. So you can sort of be crawling around really quietly, and I'm trying to set traps, and one of them will see you, and then all of a sudden there's fucking 100 zombies on you, and you think, well, that's blown that, and then you have to run away, and then all you end up doing is all I ended up doing was just getting my machine gun and just mowing them down with a machine gun because the traps I hadn't set enough traps in place, sort of thing. So it was good in a way if it all worked and everything sort of went well. There was in certain areas there's a lumber mill, sorry, and we're all sitting in a set place, and you can run away and you can sort of as you're running cut a bit of rope and then all the logs fall down, which would crush setting out the zombies. But they were far behind me, so I'm sort of stood there waiting for them to get close enough so it'll actually work. And then I didn't realise that they'd sort of pincered me and come round to the front, and I was like, oh fucking hell. So it is good because it makes you think on your feet, because you sort of have a plan and then it can go tits up. But I don't know, once you've done a couple of them, so when you start off, there's normally about 30 or 40, and it seems really difficult. But then once you've got a machine, but you don't have the guns, so you'll have like a shotgun, a pistol, and a crossbow. So, but then as you get a light machine gun, it holds 150 bullets. 40 zombies is nothing. They haven't got a chance.
So earlier on, you've got to kind of avoid them, I guess, until you've got the right equipment. Yeah,
basically, yeah. And again, that's another thing that I said. Is you don't enjoy it till 30 hours because you can see it, but you think, well, I haven't got the sort of know how to tackle these bastards. So I don't know. It's just a bit of a slog the first part of the game.
How long was the second part of the game once you felt equipped? Is it like another 20 hours or?
See, I'm really
5 hours. Is it when you?
yeah. I mean, I reckon I've probably done 40, 50 hours on it. So I reckon once you've sort of done, I reckon it's probably more split dead in half. So the first 25 hours and then the second 25 hours, I think is more sort of accurate. I do exaggerate sometimes though. It's probably only about 3 hours and I've just properly fucking blown it out of all context.
Well, like you said, it was sitting there at the base all along and
yeah.
In terms of, we haven't spoke too much about the human enemies. Are they of any threat in comparison to a horde? Do they have any sort of wits about them, or can you quite easily wipe out a base with not a lot of problems?
Yeah, you can wipe out a base pretty easy. I mean, if you've got a sniper rifle, when you open up, when you collect scrap, you open up the car bonnets.
Yes.
And there'll be oil filters in certain cars, and you can screw the oil filter into your gun to make it silenced.
Okay.
And then after a certain amount of shots, the silencer wears out, and then you have to go and find another one or buy another one. Yeah. If there's a human camp and you've got a silenced sniper rifle, you can literally, it's a piece of piss because they can't hear you, and you can just shoot them. As long as you shoot them in a good order, they're pretty easy. The only thing is they do set traps for you. So there's like string with cans connected to it. If you walk through one of those, you'll set up a noise trap, then they'll all rush you. Or there's bear traps as well, which are hidden in the long grass. And when you crouch in the long grass, it's a bit like Assassin's Creed in that sense. You have like a little bar, and it will say, "Oh, you're hidden now. They can't see you as long as you stay in this long grass."
Yeah.
But they put the bear traps in there, so yeah. There's a couple of times, but it's not really that hard. They're pretty sort of bog standard enemies. They just crop up, and they're not really, thinking about. There's no sort of plan to their attack. They normally just rush you, and if you've got a machine gun, like I say, or a shotgun, you can dispatch them pretty easy.
That's those gone. Do you get rewards for clearing out these sort of random camps? Is there like like credits with the other camps, or
that's basically it. So if you clear out a camp, clear out one of these enemy camps, the camp that they're connected to will have an area, and what you're doing is you're clearing out that camp in that camp's area, and it will raise your favour with them. So then that's how you unlock guns. So there'll be loads of. So if you kill a horde, for instance, in their area, that horde will then put you in good favour with them, and that'll increase your credits with them, and you'll be able to unlock the guns.
So those pricks won't sell you any, even if you had, I don't know, say you had like 1 million of those ears, they wouldn't sell you a gun unless you would. They wouldn't sell you like a high-powered gun unless you'd done like 10 favours for them.
No.
Fucking pricks.
I know. And you're out
capitalism.
There risking your life for them, and they won't even sell you a fucking rifle.
Yeah. Is there any likeable characters in this game?
No.
Is Deacon likeable? Is Boozer likeable? Is it? It sounds like that's a bit of a pancake
Yeah.
style.
The Deacon I couldn't give him two tosses about, and his missus I just wasn't interested. Boozer, again, he just sort of loses the plot a little bit. The characters are so wish-washy. A lot of the videos, like, as I was getting towards the end, I was just like, oh, for fuck, just skipping it, because I just couldn't be bothered to listen to what they were saying. I was just not interested at all. It really just got on my nerves. And it was just taking up extra time. So the last 5 hours, when it comes to the conclusion of the story, I don't really know what happened, to be honest. I'd lost interest by that point. I just wanted to clear the hordes down and get my hands shot of it, really.
Bloody hell!
Yeah.
How we've discovered how the game works? But how does it feel to play? Like, how is the combat? And you mentioned the driving the bike shit, but how is the shooting? Does it have any weight behind it? What's the melee combat like? How's that all working?
The shooting's pretty bog standard. It's like playing, I don't know, I'm just trying to think of a shooting game I've played recently, but it's a bit like GTA.
Right. Yeah.
It's pretty similar to that. Like the cover system is sort of quite similar, and the shooting's quite similar. There's not too much to it, but it's pretty bog standard. The driving is terrible. The melee combat is okay. It's quite brutal. You have sort of like, if you hit someone and they're at the end of their life, bar sort of thing, it's pretty brutal. It has like a tiny little cutscene where it'll
put a finisher, does it?
Yeah, basically, yeah. So that's quite satisfying in places. But yeah, the sort of the bike is so bad it sort of ruins it, and it doesn't play brilliant. It's pretty 5 out of 10 all over, but the bike's like a fucking 1 out of 10.
Jesus Christ! Is there any other business to raise that's not been covered? Anything any stories or anything that you want to raise before we go on to the scoring?
Not really. No, I think I've covered all the bases. The bike annoyed me. The garage annoyed me. The weapon system annoyed me. And the hordes weren't great. So yeah, I think I've ticked all the boxes.
Excellent. Let's find out what is your closing thoughts on Days Gone and its official score.
How do you score it?
Out of 10.
Out of 10, 4. So don't be rushing out to buy
4
this.
out of 10.
It's really not great. It really isn't great. And 50 hours and you give it a 4 out of 10.
That's what I'm trying to get at. How did you? I'm surprised you didn't bin this, because full disclosure, you've binned Shadow of the Tomb Raider hours into it. You've binned Assassin's Creed Odyssey.
Yeah.
I've played through Odyssey. I'm a good way through Tomb Raider. They don't seem like 4 out of 10s. They seem passable. How has this been played through to completion with that sort of? Basically,
what it was is, I think I was on my time off from work, my 2 weeks off, so I had nothing else to do, and I did think about binning it, and it was at that about 25 hour mark when it sort of changed up a bit, and I was like, oh, it's not too bad, and that sort of managed to reset me for another 25 hours, I think, basically. But I don't know. I think it was the hordes, because I thought I really want to tackle these hordes, but I haven't got the gun. So I think I just played all the way through it just so I could face the hordes, and that was really it. But that left me with not a great feeling.
You sent over a picture of you hiding in a bin for the first 20 hours. So I guess that's what people can look forward to in the opening part of this game whilst you're underpowered. But I think that's an all-time low for Days Gone, a 4 out of 10, which is a shame to see. And you've said you've given it to me to borrow, which I'm more annoyed at, that you've given it a 4 out of 10 and said, you waste 50 hours now.
The thing is, you might play it and you might go, well, what about this? And I'll go, oh yeah, I forgot about that. And that'll boost it up to a 5. So you have to take my scores with a pinch of salt, because I have been known to make mistakes. But I didn't enjoy it. It's not something that I'll ever play through again, ever.
Why have you lent it to me then? I thought you were going to trade it in.
I just thought I wanted to put you through the hell I've just been through. There's 50 hours of shit. Now you can deal with it. No, I probably will. I probably will trade it in when you're done with it, but I'm not in any rush at the moment. So, that price will plummet by the time I get it back, though.
Yeah, it won't be worth anything. I'll keep it.
Yeah.
I'll definitely start it. Well, once I start things, I like to finish them, so it's very rare that I'd walk away with something unfinished. The only thing I make exceptions for is when the main sort of campaign's finished and there's loads of end game stuff, and it's like, oh, that's like the secret end. I'm like, I'm not playing another 30 hours. Like, I've done the campaign. Either the credits have rolled or like the story's wrapped up. Don't be putting me through that garbage. But I'll get through this. I do want to play it, and once the old Shadow of the Tomb Raider's finished with, I'll go back to this. Well, it sounds like it could be a bit of a step down. Anyway, Days Gone, 4 out of 10, official Dimp scoring. No way of objecting to it because we've not finished it or played enough of it in the other ranks. That's how it will go down the records books. Biff, thanks for your time. We'll see you in another 8 months probably.
See you later.
Ta-da. Cool.